Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome in today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing. Pause this video. Go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get in today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health is today.
Guys, welcome to an exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety on this triple header Tuesday. My guest today is a marketing and consulting, is a marketer and a consultant. She has also currently writing 2 books, not just one, she's writing 2. And is also a social media influencer, which she does a lot of food blogging. Please welcome in the one, the only Jenna Snipe. Jenna, welcome in.
Hi, how are you?
How are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. I know you wanted to come share your story. I obviously know what it is. But why don't you tell people a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll get into that.
So, my name's Jenna, and I'm a mother of 2. I live here in the DFW area, and I own a marketing and consulting firm. And I do pretty much everything you just said I do. I do social media. I'm writing 2 books. What else did you want to know?
That's crazy though. 2 books. What are the books about, basically?
So the first one is going to be a recipe cookbook. And behind every other couple of recipes, I'm going to write a little short story correlated with the person that taught me that cook recipe.
I love that. I love that. And what's the other book?
So the other book is called Love, Heartbreak, and Healing. And it's basically going to be like a self-help guide for people that that are basically survivors of pretty much anything, primarily domestic violence and gun violence. And it just gives you pretty much like healthy coping mechanisms, how I overcame, and still kind of battle with PTSD and anxiety, but how I overcame those, found healthy coping mechanisms, and I apply those in my everyday life.
I absolutely love it. So Jenna has decided she wants to come today to share her own story. Now, guys, let me tell you, trigger warning ahead of time. This may be triggering to some people. This is pretty intense. I have read through it. Gave me a little sneak preview, a lot of this stuff. So just so you know, guys, this conversation is going to get a little real. So, and Jenna, whenever you want to share with us, you can. Whenever you don't feel like you want to, just please don't feel like you have to say everything if you really don't want to. So whenever you're ready, you go ahead and lead us on this path.
So, I kind of wanted to come on here and talk about anxiety with you. I know that that's what your podcast is about. I didn't know if you had like certain questions that you wanted to
No,
ask or.
no, the podcast about mental health awareness, but anxiety is one of the things on that list of everything else and stuff like that too. So, it's just anything you want to talk about, honestly. This spotlight is for you. Like if you want to share parts of your story, let people know, some of the things you've dealt with, give them a little more idea of what you've dealt with. If it's up to you though, really what you want to share.
Okay. So, growing up, I grew up in a house that was rampant with domestic violence. There was a lot of domestic violence towards my mother, towards me and my sister, one of my sisters. Um, and, my father was in and out of prison a lot, just had a lot of issues in his own life. My mother had issues in her own life, that sort of thing. Growing up, when my mother left my father, fast forward to that, I kind of fell through the cracks as the middle child. A lot of middle children do. You kind of get lost, I guess, is a way to put it, as a middle child. Um, the younger kids always get all the attention, the older kids are always
Mm-hmm.
gone and the most spoiled, as you know. And so anyway, I would say a lot of the anxiety developed from a lot of the domestic abuse, just having a lot of violence in the home alone or seeing a lot of violence will give you overall anxiety, sleep disorders, stuff like that. eating disorders, that sort of thing as a child and early adulthood as well. Um, Also, just PTSD was another thing that I battled and actually still battle with. More so PTSD than anxiety, as in my adult life. I've gotten PTSD from being a victim of gun violence multiple times, starting at the age of 9 or 10. Around that time. But that was the first time that I personally was shot at.
Oh,
Um,
whoa, hold up. You said you were shot at 9 years old?
yes.
Oh, Jesus. What happened exactly? Was it somebody you knew, or was it just like wrong place, the wrong time?
No, so it was somebody I knew. It was somebody that was supposed to love and protect me. And
Oh,
that person, I guess, was more afraid that myself and my mother was going to possibly testify against them. They were more worried probably about that than they were, the regard for our human life.
yeah. I get that. That's wow, Jenna. Wow, that's insane. Like that's crazy. I am so sorry you had to deal with that. Especially at 9, it's like, wow, these people are supposed to love you, and then that's what happens. It's like, hold on, wait a minute, what's going on? What am I missing here?
Definitely, I know, as a young kid, um, oh, that's right, I just turned 10. That's what I just turned 10.
Yeah,
But yeah, as a young kid, surviving something that was meant to literally kill you at point blank range, it definitely puts a bridge between you and anybody else in the world, especially when it's done by somebody that's supposed to love and protect you. The one person that's supposed to protect you tries to murder you, so
yeah,
it's like it definitely it changes the way that you view people, humans. It changes the way you look at life in general. So definitely that was the first time. Unfortunately for me, it wasn't going to be the last. That wasn't the last time that I, was shot at point blank range or, from a distance. As a young woman or as a young girl, I'll say, anytime you grow up in certain lifestyles and you see a lot of certain things, some women tend to gravitate towards men that are somewhat like their fathers. Especially, and you see that a lot in women who are raised in single parent homes. If their father wasn't around a lot or was at an early age, or if their father just had overall bad habits, a lot of young women tend to gravitate towards men like that. Um, and so I think for me, of course, that sort of thing became normal. After you see certain things so many times, you kind of view it as normal. It doesn't mean it is, but in your warped mind, it becomes normal, because you kind of have to normalize these sort of things to survive. It's a survival coping mechanism, right?
hmm,
When you're a young child and you see a lot of crime or you see a lot of gun violence or a lot of violence in general, you kind of try to normalize these things just as a way to survive them.
yeah,
It's your body and your mind's way of surviving, everything that you're seeing. And so when you normalize these things, then they become less and less of a big deal. So then next thing you know, you're dating someone that's exactly like the person that you never wanted to be around or whatever. So as a young adult and a young teenager, I also started dating men who sold drugs, did drugs, or were just engulfed in crime, because again, I thought it was normal. Um, and so naturally, being with men like that, you just get involved in a lot of bad habits and a lot of wrong places at the wrong time.
yeah,
And so I continued being around that bad behavior and until my early 20s. And that's when I finally like basically realized like, hey, this is not normal. This is not okay. Like, I deserve better. and I did that. I found better. I deserved better. I changed my whole life around. I was able to get therapy. And as crazy as this sounds, I'm still in therapy. I've been in therapy since I was 12 years old. I'm 42, about to be 43. I'm still in therapy.
No, I mean, it makes sense. So, depending on what you're dealing with, with PTSD, it's rough in general. Like that's hard. Some people get triggered by this. Do you ever have moments like where you get triggered by certain things, or is there something that triggers you, kind of thing, and stuff like that, or is it just that you just have like flashbacks? I know it's different for everybody. That's why I'm asking.
Absolutely. So I definitely have triggers and I do have flashbacks. I will say the flashbacks are very far in between. I rarely have them now because of the amount of therapy that I've done. So it's very rare that I do get them, but I do get them if put in the right trigger or if put in the right situation, I think.
Yeah. Do you get them like night terrors ever? Do you like, kind of wake up and think you're in the situation? Because dreams a lot of times are really vivid and real to people, and and things like that. And it's like you're almost there, like you're reliving the moment, or your brain, or your body's trying to tell you something. A lot of times, and when it comes to that, when you have these flashbacks, maybe is it really surreal? Like you think that like you're literally there, kind of thing. I'm just trying to get people to better understand what it is you deal with because they need to understand this is real. PTSD is a rough situation for a lot of people.
Absolutely. To the night sweats, yes, I do
Mhm.
still have that. I did used to have bad nightmares. Literally every single night I would have nightmares. And that continued literally up until I would say probably 6 months ago, maybe. This last year and a half, and especially the last 6 months, especially the last 6 months, I have done some real deep digging and some real deep work on myself. And I have really made some severe progress in the last 6 months alone. But up until about 6 months ago, I used to have bad nightmares
Yeah.
and I would wake up screaming or crying and I would have sweat just drenching, I mean, drenched in sweat. And I would wake up I would be struggling to breathe and I would feel like the room is caving in or like tunnel vision or I would sometimes wake up screaming and crying, feeling like I was still in that moment, like and somebody would have to shake me or I would have
Mhm.
to realize where I'm at and kind of come to. But definitely, I would say probably about 6 months ago, the nightmares stopped. I do still sweat when I sleep at night. I don't know if I'm not remembering my dreams or if maybe I'm just sweating at night now because my body's used to it. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I do still kind of wake up a little sweaty sometimes at night. But I don't remember any nightmares or I don't wake up screaming anymore. I don't wake up crying anymore.
Yeah, that's good
Um,
though. I mean that's like I said, it's intense. Like I'm trying to think of the best way to put it for people. It's like, it's almost like a flashback in a movie, basically, what she's experiencing. Like I have dealt with it too. When somebody has PTSD, except for they went into fight or flight mode when something happened. It triggered them to that point. They were not the same person, and I had to fight this person off, like literally fight him off because he went to another zone, kind of thing. And so when I hear PTSD, it's always an interesting to see how people handle it because different people experience it in different ways and things like that too. And it could be your subconscious still remembers all those things that you had dealt with as a child and things like that because it's 95% of your brain and your mindset makeup is in your subconscious, and it's so much powerful than your other percentage, which is your frontal lobe over the I'm saying your mindset, basically. So and it's interesting, because like your body remembers these things, and then your dreams are basically your body trying to tell you something. So you having to be constantly reminded of that horror. I hats off to you because most people they just like it's a lot from the handle, but you seem like you've been making some great progress. Like you said, it's great to hear that you're getting somewhere now, and it had to feel like forever that these things just continue to happen to you.
yes, and to answer your question about triggers, I do still have triggers.
Yeah.
Yelling is a big trigger for me. I start sweating and my heart starts racing when I hear a lot of yelling.
Yeah.
If people get in my face, I attack. Like
Yeah.
and I don't mean to. I literally lose it. Like I can handle people yelling at me from across the room, but if somebody gets within like arm's length distance and they're yelling and screaming, I literally attack
Yeah.
because I literally feel like fight or flight, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And so those are two triggers, is loud noises and yelling. Because anytime I hear a loud noise, it reminds me of that gunshot.
Oh, I
So
believe
like
it. Oh, I believe it.
sudden
Trust
loud
me.
noises is a bad trigger for me.
Yeah.
But and yeah, like you were saying, it is overcoming something, especially long-term abuse like that. I mean, you have to think I got abused from a young child all the way up until I was 25. You know what I mean? So going through the first 25 years of my life being abused to where fast forward I got help at 25 and I've been in counseling ever since. Like it took a lot of work. And so I say that to say, like, I spent the first 40 years of my life, I feel, because I started really digging deep like 2 years ago. And then over the last 2 years is when I really started doing a majority of the hard work. But the last 6 months, I've had to really dig deep.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I believe it. So, what kind of treatments were you doing? Doing like quantum healing or anything like that, where they dig really deep into your mindset?
So, right now we're doing MSDR, I believe it's called MSMDR or MDR, something like that treatment. um MSMDR, I think it's called, but I'd have to look it up. But that's what we're doing right now. And it's kind of like cognitive therapy to where we're trying to like retrain my thoughts. And then and we're also right now we're finally focused on training like certain memories to where we're trying to desensitize my feelings or emotions when I think of certain memories. That way, certain triggers won't trigger me anymore.
Yeah.
So, my number one goal right now is to focus on the memory of being shot at as a child. That's one memory that we're trying to desensitize myself from. The second memory is the when our house got raided when I was 6, when my dad went to prison. That raid was very traumatic for me as well. So that's a memory that we're working on. And then the third memory is another memory of me losing basically the love of my life. He was murdered, and that was a huge heartbreak for me. And so we're working on those three memories right now and
Yeah.
desensitizing the thoughts when I think of those memories.
Jesus. Oh, let me tell you, I'm at a loss of words right this second. Just that whole sit, those 3 dreams alone is just insane. But you're still here. It's awesome. I'm so glad you're still here. I don't know if you hear this enough, but I'm so glad you're still here. You are making strides, and you're proving to people that even though all that shit you've been through, you're still doing something. You're successful. You have your own business. You have children too, correct?
Absolutely. I have two
And, and,
children.
and you know what I'm saying? You're putting an example for them too. You're saying, listen, even though I've been through all this stuff, you can do it too. And they see you doing it. And trust me, they may not say anything, but they do notice that you're doing that.
And and it's funny that you say that because when you're raising small children, you don't realize how much your actions actually affect them. And a lot of people don't realize that. But now when they're grown, because my daughter will turn 18 next month, my son's 22. My son's in college for business. My daughter is about to start college in 3 months. She wants to go be a doctor. So both of them now tell me, about memories that they have from when when they were growing up. Because, I hate to say this, but this is the reality of it. I was never home. I was always gone. I was
Yeah.
either at work all day during the day, 9 to 5, and then I went to school full time at night. So unfortunately, a nanny raised my kids because I was always working or in school and then when I graduated, I always had high level jobs to where I traveled a lot or, was always at late night meetings as well. So all they remember is mom working hard and never
Yeah.
being home. And now that they're older and I'm home more, and I'm taking the conscious effort to take off and not work, and and takes a couple years off to grow my own brand, I'm being home more. And now it's so funny watching life full circle, because you see all of the things that they watched you do, and you see how it affected them. And I love the fact that one thing that my kids can say about me is that no matter what I go through, I always push through, and I see commitments through to the end.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's definitely evident based on everything you've been through and all the things you're going through and all the therapy and all everything you've had to go through. That is without even a question. Now, have you told them about your past yet, or is it something you want to tell them about? Because I know when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's going to lead to my question about mental health, basically. So when it comes to kids at their age, do you talk to them about it now? Like, hey guys, just make sure they're more aware of just certain things, like suicide and things like that, all these real things that people in their age range would start dealing with too. Just let them know that, hey, listen, if you need help, you come talk to me because we're gonna get you some help. You know what I mean? To make sure they don't feel like they're alone or they don't have anywhere to go.
I definitely do talk to them now. Unfortunately, I never really wanted them to know about my past, but
Yeah,
unfortunately they do. My mother told my son at a very, very young age, which I do not agree with, but we are where we are. So he's always known about my issues.
yeah,
And unfortunately the lifestyle that I lived growing up. Because another thing that we battled was homelessness a lot as a kid. So, that's another thing that my kids know, that that's why I worked so hard to raise them in one home.
yeah,
And that's why it was so important for me to have one home and buy this home. And that's why it's such a big deal, for me to pay it off in the next couple of years and leave it to them, because I raised my kids in one home.
yeah.
When I was a kid, sometimes we didn't even have a home. So that was always a goal for me. And so that, like little things like that, when I achieve goals, sometimes I do tell them the why behind it, of why it was such a big deal for me. You know what I mean? Because growing up, how I grew up, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't see myself living past 15. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even think I would grow up to be an adult, much less 43.
Oh yeah, especially everything you're dealing with. Oh hell no, I don't blame you. You didn't have the greatest mindset after that, especially being that close to death. Like I couldn't even begin to think what thoughts you were going through your head at that time. And it's rough, man. It's hard. Like I said, so I told people ahead of time, this is a trigger warning, man, because people are gonna hear someone's gonna hear this, and may trigger, may not. I mean, but this is your story. They can't. At the end of the day, you're here telling your story, which is very powerful in itself, because someone's gonna hear this and they're going to be like, damn, I'm just like Jenna. I agree with her 100%. And if you touch one person, that's it. You've won the battle 100% there.
I agree. And to be truthful with you, I think that's why sharing my story is so important for me, because I want people to know that no matter what you're going through, whether it be domestic violence, whether it be, even feeling suicidal, there's times that I didn't want to live anymore,
Yeah.
but I prayed about it and pushed through and, found ways to keep myself alive. But, no matter what you're going through in life, or no matter how low you feel, if you just keep one little seed or one little ounce of hope, and that's one thing that always kept me through, was hope. I always hoped that I was going to do better. I always hoped that I would have, a good life. And I always hoped that if I had kids, that I would give them a better life than
Yeah.
myself. And that hope is what carried me through many shootouts, many life or death situations, many moments where I literally did not think I was going to make it out of a house alive. But, that hope kept me fighting, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally. That hope is what got me through. And that hope is why I now have a happy, fulfilling life.
Jenna, let's backtrack a second. Did you just say surviving shootouts? Girl, you just add everything to the list today, aren't you? First, somebody shoots at you. Then there's more gun violence. Then there's people shootouts. Like, girl, you've lived a life to beyond lives.
Yes. So as a young adult, I turned to dating men, that were a lot like my
Yeah.
father. And so therefore, I got put in a lot of life or death situations where sometimes, I was in shootouts and I had to shoot back and defend myself, or, crawl myself out of a window, or throw myself out of a window even. I mean, I've got scars all over my body from little stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, life happens and all we can do is make the best of it and pray about it and keep going and, just keep hope alive, I guess.
Yeah. So for your book, okay, so is it more like a memoir, would you say? Just so everybody understands your soul. Because I think if you haven't thought about doing one, you should probably do it. And I'm talking get like nitty gritty with people because I think your story is as crazy it is, and as you go into great deep. I think somebody's gonna read that and be like, wow, if Jenna can do it, why the hell can't I do it? My life can it wasn't as bad as hers, unfortunately, but if she gets to go through all that stuff and still make something, why can't I do it? I think it's a powerful message to people, honestly.
I would love to do that, and I'm seriously considering it. I've already sat down and wrote out like a timeline to start, but I also wanted to turn it into a movie, like a documentary as
Hmm.
well. Because I do feel like my story really could help people. Because, I mean, not only that, like, I was beat as a child, I was raped as a child, I was molested. I mean, my God, like, God, I mean, everything God could throw at me, not God, but everything life could throw at me.
Yeah.
It did. Life lifed for sure. But, one thing about me is I never gave up. And I think that that's what separates, the strong from the weak is, you just gotta, because you just gotta keep going. I
Yeah.
mean, if there's breath in your lungs and love in your heart, there's still a hope, there's still a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame you there, but damn, geez, Jenna, you just keep adding more to this list, girl. Let me tell you what. Holy crap. That's just like wow. Like, and I'd say wow because it's like I've heard crazy things on this show. I've heard some really interesting stories, but yours is right up there with a couple people I know already that've been here. And it just gets more interesting the further this conversation goes. But yeah, a memoir would be great though. I think, and I don't think it was a bad thing your son found out at an early age because I think the fact that he knows what you're dealing with, I think it would help him better on now. Is he'll better understand things. So if he runs into a situation or somebody has something similar to that, he'll be a little more educated. Though you think about it, he'll be like, okay, we know my mom had dealt with some of this stuff, and then start learning some of the similarities of things. He'll probably come out a lot farther ahead than you think he's going to be. You know what I mean? I think it was good for him, but maybe not at such a young age. Not so much at a young age because I think we should be teaching these guys at younger ages about a lot of this stuff, just like different things or what all these different mental issues are we have and things like that. I feel like if we educate them now, it'll help them better in the future so they can better identify. So, if they themselves do or they have a friend that needs help or something like that, they can, they can speak up because I think that's the biggest problem is that with my guest right before you at 11, we were discussing this that they said that men she had to come to her clinic would literally like sneak in the back door and things like that. It was just so funny because it was like they're cover their faces and things like that because they didn't want to talk about their feelings and things like that. And she said, I think the ratio was like 80-20 at first, but now she's kind of evened it out to 50-50 and things like that. So I think, him hearing a little bit of that, yes, it's probably a little much for him to understand. But at the same time, it's probably going to be beneficial to him in the end of the day because he's going to know more about this stuff and have a better understanding, in case something like that were to come up in another situation.
Well, and truth be told, unfortunately for my son, as they always say, the cycle repeats itself. So, unfortunately for my son had to experience a lot of that at an early age himself because
Yeah.
the cycle repeats itself. So, of course, my dad, lived that kind of lifestyle with me, and then I repeated it with my son up until he got a certain age. And
Yeah.
then that's when I turned my life around. So, my son has also been in shootouts with me. My son was there whenever I stabbed somebody and went to jail in my 20s. My son has been literally in shootouts with me
Yeah.
as a child. So unfortunately, my son saw a lot of that. And
Yeah.
now he sees me now, and that's why he's so proud of me. And I think that's why he's such a bright, hardworking young man.
Oh, he is. He sounds like it already. The fact that he's proud of you after everything you've been through, you can't teach that character to anybody, Jenna. You're raising a perfect young man right there. Hats off to him too for acknowledging that you're going through so much because a lot of people don't. They don't even want to talk about a lot of that stuff that people deal with. They don't even acknowledge it. And it's like, they act like it's all an issue. Oh, I think we lost Jenna.
Oh,
Oh, there
sorry
you are.
about that. Sorry about that. Someone called my phone. But no, yeah, no, you're right. And it's kind of funny that you brought up my book and writing a memoir, because the goal that I originally had for that book, to be truthful with you, it's kind of neat how I wanted to do it. I wanted to write from a daughter's perspective,
Yeah.
like a daughter of a drug dealer slash drug user. And then I wanted to, there's a certain male that I had in mind. I was going to ask him to write as a father, who's also a drug dealer, and write from that father's perspective. And then I was going to write from the daughter's perspective. And then I was going to have my son, I was going to have him bring in as, the son's perspective of a drug dealer. Because, my son, when my son was a young child, unfortunately, both of his parents, repeated that cycle. So I was gonna make it like the daughter, the dad, and then a son's perspective. That way it could show how the cycle repeats itself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It went downhill generation to generation. So that was my original plan for my book, but unfortunately, I no longer associate with the male that I was gonna ask to co-write the book for me. So I'm just gonna stick with writing it from a daughter's perspective, and I may possibly still bring in my son and ask him to co-write.
I think you should, for the simple fact that it would be interesting to see his mindset of after being through all that stuff. Where is his mindset now, kind of thing? And I think it'd be a fresh perspective because we always say we don't know what the younger kids are thinking. He would be a very interesting, conversational piece to see what he has to say, or, ask him certain questions about things and have him respond from the point of view of being the son in these situations. I think it'd be amazing, honestly. I think you're going to get a fresh perspective from somebody so young, and you can see what his thought process is, because a lot of times, the adults are the ones talking and the kids aren't saying much, but I think it'd be great, honestly. I think you're going the right direction, obviously, with it. I think that getting his point of view will be interesting because you'll see what, like, you can see it through his eyes, essentially, what he's seeing and how he thinks about it, and get us a little more understanding of what the younger crowd thinks about a lot of these topics, because it's not, like I said, we don't talk about a lot of this stuff enough. And I think it should be more of an open conversation with a lot of people about things because it's everything everybody deals with. We all deal with mental health issues. There's things that happen all the time, and it doesn't make you any different, doesn't make you inhuman, doesn't make you weirder. I mean, so okay, so you may be a little stranger to other people because depending on what it is you're dealing with, obviously it presents differently for certain things. So, we use that term a little loosely, but still, I mean, it'd be interesting to get his perspective though.
Yeah, and really I think it would be just because he can shed so much light to, as far as like, as how the cycle repeats itself, or the cycle of violence
Hmm.
repeats. Also he could ask, he could give a perspective of coming from a child that started off in that type of life and then ended with his parents, quitting and changing their lives around, and now him seeing a different side of life. So I think he could give a good perspective to both. And I also think that's what makes him such a well-rounded, very mature young man.
Yeah, that's awesome though. That is. I think that him knowing a lot of this stuff and being through a lot of these things, he had to grow up a lot faster. But it sounds like he didn't let it stop him from him doing something because he's going to school now, and that's a lot more than most people could say in his situation. He's not letting anything hold him back. And he's using you as the example because obviously he's watching you do it. So now he wants to be like mom. He wants to persevere regardless of everything we dealt with. And hats off to him. I say hats off to him. I say go for it. Sky's the limit, man. Why not? Why let something limit you if you don't have to?
Absolutely. And to be truthful with you, he really has no choice, because between both parents, I mean, his dad's got multiple degrees, I have multiple degrees, so
Yeah.
he didn't have an excuse. He had to go.
Well, that's good though. I mean, like I said though, and it's interesting to see, like to see if he'll have the conversation with his friends about things, too, because it's always interesting to see when certain topics get brought up to people. Like suicide gets brought up a lot, but a lot of people don't know how to handle the conversation. And there was a girl that had Monday on the show that had made a very interesting comment. She said that she had reached out to a friend, she said, quote unquote, air quotation friend, because she said that she reached out to him and they basically shut her down. And she was like, well, then it kind of felt me feel like, oh, well, I don't want to talk to you, and everybody says, oh, hey, reach out if you ever need something. But when you react like that, it's like, well, then What if this person were to commit suicide and that was the final step, they wanted to talk to you, and you just shut them down? And it's an interesting perspective that she's like, well, this is how I felt. I felt smaller and everything else. And it was interesting when it got brought up because I was like, wow. I said that's a powerful statement if you think about it, because she did exactly what she's supposed to. I reached out to somebody and they basically turned me down.
And that happens. That's actually a lot more common than you think. I'd say probably about 6 to 9 months ago, I hit a low point, to where I didn't feel suicidal, but I did feel very lost and very, I'm not going to say suicidal because I wasn't suicidal, but I
Yeah.
did feel very confused about, kind of where I wanted to be as far as like, am I at the point in life to where I just want to give up, or do I want to keep trying? I did feel like that 6 months ago. And I reached out to, somebody that, I was there for her at her lowest. So I believed she was going to be there for me at mine. And I reached out to her and she just kept ignoring me and kept ignoring me regardless of the, multiple attempts, to where I was basically begging her to call me, and it felt too much like begging. So I gave up and I pulled myself out of, one of my darkest moments. And now looking back, it made me realize that, I had to find healthy mechanisms that worked for me, because at my lowest, I didn't have anybody that I could call.
Yeah.
And so I had to find what worked for me, because in reality, most people don't know how to handle feeling like that or feeling
Yeah.
lost or despair. So when you are in pain and you do reach out for people, 9 times out of 10, a lot of them aren't going to be there in reality, or they're not going to be there the way you want them to be there.
Yeah.
They're going to be there the best way they know how, which sometimes people don't know how to love you in the way you need. And so I think it's best for anybody battling mental health, issues, is to find healthy coping mechanisms that work for you, even if it's just short term. Like, let's say if you have a couple of people that you call, let's say if you have a support system, have you some coping mechanisms that you can have in place just to hold you over until your support system is able to be there for you. Because there's going to be times they may be at work, they may be asleep, nobody may answer the phone. And if you don't have healthy coping mechanisms, you're going to naturally go to something unhealthy.
Jenna, I love it. That's great advice. I really do. Having a great support system is always great. And like you said, having those healthy coping mechanisms makes it a lot easier for, in case that worst case scenario happens that somebody doesn't answer, you could at least manage the situation to the best of your ability at that time. I think that's fantastic advice for people. I really do think people should definitely take that advice and definitely do that kind of thing, because it's great having the support system that you can call if you need to. But what if you run into that situation, like you said, run in a situation? Oh, now I got to figure out what to do, and then those coping mechanisms will come through right greatly, because it's like, all right, well, I can't get hold of them now, so let's address the situation now instead of letting it become a bigger issue than it needs to be.
Right. Absolutely. Because if you don't have ways to cope, pain will eat you alive.
Hmm.
It
One
will.
hundred percent.
Depression, anxiety, all of that will eat you alive.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Because then your anxiety starts going, your brain starts taking up all these ideas and you don't know. And then you just start worrying because, oh God, they're not answering. Oh God, why isn't they not answering? They don't want to talk to me. All those thoughts are coming in your head and things like that. And then you start doing negative self talk and all that other kind of stuff, and it just starts worse and it starts piling and piling and piling on top of you, and it just feels like a brick on your chest, basically, essentially.
Absolutely. It'll turn into, like, I know for me, one of my biggest things when I have anxiety, mine will go for days sometimes if I let it. It'll get bad enough to where it'll go for days. And during that period, I will not eat, I will not sleep. I mean, it'll get really bad if you let it. So
Yeah.
you've got to find ways to cope, even if it's something simple as coloring in a coloring book. I know that sounds crazy, but it keeps your mind focused and it keeps your hands busy. That's one thing for me, coloring in a coloring book. Another thing is writing. I don't know if anybody likes to write, but poetry, even writing your thoughts down, journaling,
Hmm.
anything.
Yes, I love it.
Finding things that you like to do, finding, music that you like, or just anything, even if it's going for a drive in the middle of the night. I mean, for some people that's not realistic. I know for me, nighttime is a trigger. That Speaking of triggers, nighttime is a trigger for me. And we deal with nighttime every day, right?
Yeah,
So at night, because I have like nighttime anxiety, and it's obviously due to a lot of the sexual abuse.
yeah,
um, but I've learned to self-talk, healthy self-talk at night.
yeah.
It really, I swear to God, guys, like one thing for me that I've learned is your mind is a powerful thing. What you tell your mind is what's gonna, come out. And so you really have to get good at positive self-talk.
I love it, Jenna. I love it that you said self talk because that was a topic of one episode I had with a guest. We were talking about negative self talk, and how it affects you more than people realize. Like, oh, you could be, you're the, or what is it, how it says, usually you're your harshest critic and things like that. So I love the fact that you're saying that make sure you have positive self talk for yourself because a lot of times that negative one will be the thing that gets you going too because you're always beating yourself up worse. And a lot of times it's nothing that you did. It's just your brain playing tricks on you going, oh, well, no, oh, these things. And then your thoughts start kicking up and then your anxiety will start kicking in. And then those self-talk, that negative talk will come in. So I love it when you said that. I was like, oh my God, I love it. As soon as you said that, that was like, yep, she knows it. So, and I love it too. I really do.
Yeah, I had to get big on self-talk, and self-talk is also part of cognitive therapy. Because one thing for me, like, sharing with you about the nighttime anxiety is, I used to get really bad about, every little noise that I would hear outside at night. I would always automatically think that somebody's trying to come in and harm me, right?
Yeah.
Because as a kid, there was times where I was tied up and left for days, where people would break into our house to steal money or, drugs or guns from me or rob me, things like that. So, you know, um, I have a big fear of, people breaking in. That's one of my
Yeah.
biggest fears. And so, anytime I would hear a noise outside, I would automatically think that. So, one of the things that I had to do in cognitive therapy is I had to start telling myself, well, isn't it possible that it could be a raccoon? Or isn't it possible that it could be this? And when you do that so many times, and it, as tacky as that sounds, it really does work because
Yeah.
if you keep telling yourself over and over, and you're not just thinking of the positive and you're just or the negative, and you're just kind of flipping it, well, isn't it possible that, and you're giving yourself other positive options, it really does retrain your mind. And so I know that that helps me now. And one more thing before I kind of get off that subject, but one thing that I really wanted to share with you is anytime that I say something negative, I always make sure that I say something positive. And a minute ago, I said something negative. I don't even remember what it was, but I want to follow it up with something positive since I didn't do it right away. And
Hmm.
this is another part of positive reinforcement is I wanted to share with you one of my biggest achievements. Like you were saying, we're hard on ourselves, right? We're our own worst critic. One of my biggest achievements in life is that I'm 42 years old, and up until 6 months ago, I have never slept in a house or an apartment anywhere by myself without another adult present. Even to the point where I've had to pay people to come stay with me because I couldn't be alone at night due to my PTSD, right? Well, 6 months ago, as of 6 months ago, I now can finally stay by myself at night with no adult.
Hey, that's awesome. That's so great to hear, and it to everyone else it may sound hokey, but that's an achievement in itself, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I know that sounds so childish. I've never stayed by myself at
Oh
night.
no, no, God no. Especially
But
what you deal with. Oh hell no, that's not childish at all. Especially
if
PTSD, man.
only,
Oh hell no.
oh yeah, and if only you knew like the lengths I've had to go just to keep people with me at night. Like I've had to have roommates for years, like my whole life. I've always had to have a roommate.
Yeah.
Or, I've always had to have a housekeeper to where I've had to pay a salary just to have somebody living with me. Like, it's crazy the amount of time, money, and energy that I had to spend just to keep myself from, having anxiety attacks at night. And because of the PTSD, to where now I am fully functional. I can be alone at night now without any adult in the house with me. Which that took, like I said, I'm 43, or I'll be 43 next month, and that just started 6 months ago. So that's a big deal. But I'm able to do that, and I'm able to sleep without lights on at night now. And I'm also able to self-talk to where I don't have like, because I used to have all these different alarms and alarm systems around the house on the inside and outside of my house. Well, I was able to shut off my alarm as of 2 months ago, so I no longer need to have inside alarms. I have outside alarms, but not inside alarms.
Well, it's awesome. See, you're making great strides and everything like that. I don't care how hokey it sounds to anybody. I say that's an achievement, honestly, because what you've been dealing with all this time, it's like, it makes perfect sense. It all lines up to me. It lines up because I know I do a lot of research into this stuff. So I know what you're dealing with. It's not easy, especially for you to have to get to that point. And as hokies, it may sound to everybody else like, trust me, guys, this is real. This is what she deals with on a daily basis. Like, and that's the great thing of this podcast is for you to share that with other people because you never know. Somebody out there may have the same situation you do, and they're like, "Damn, if Jenna can do it, I can do it." You know what I mean? You're going to inspire somebody to want to do the same thing. Like, hey, listen, if she can make it, I can make it because it's always positive when you hear somebody else doing it. And it's like now it's empowering because you're like, oh well, man, now Jenna did it. Why can't I? And do that same thing. The self talk, like keep telling themselves, if she can do it, why can't I do it? You know what I mean? And things like that. And that's awesome. Honestly, that's so awesome. To me, it doesn't sound crazy at all. It makes perfect sense because after everything you've dealt with, Jesus Almighty, you're still here, you're still pushing, and you're making great strides, and you're going to continue to make great strides, which is amazing.
Yes, and I'm super excited about that because, I mean, for so long I had to live in fear, and I no longer live in fear. And just, life feels good. It
Yeah.
really does.
Oh, I bet it does. It has to be. It has to feel great to know that you don't need to depend on anybody. You can be independent, and it doesn't matter how long it took. It's the fact that you got here is what matters the most. Is that you've made it an achievement beyond your world, of things that you've dealt with in the past. So that's phenomenal. I'm so excited to hear that, and you'll have to keep me updated as you go, as you keep making greater strides, so we can keep pointing it out to everybody. Other people, hey, listen, Jenna just let it chimed in and things like that. And I'll announce them here on the show. I'll tell people, hey, Jenna reached out, guys. We got another milestone marker to go because I'm all about supporting other people. I feel like that we need to be nicer to each other in this world. I feel like that's the biggest problem that we have is we're too busy judging other people for the way they look or what they do or everything else. We worry too much about what everybody does. We need to worry about taking care of ourselves first. And the fact that you're doing your own self-care is amazing because a lot of people don't even do self-care at all.
Yeah, and I think that is where a lot of people kind of we wrong ourselves.
Yep.
You have to take care of yourself. Self-preservation is a must.
Yep, that's right, Jenna. Tell them from the back of the sound. Tell them self-preservation is a must. You heard it. It's not just me saying it. And when more people say it, the message gets stronger because I feel like a lot of people don't put themselves first. And I think it's just because a lot of the ways people are raised and things that people go through are different things. Like a lot of times it comes with like these all these apps and everything, and they feel obligated that they have to be there for something. And I always tell people constantly, like, I'll unplug a lot of times. I'll take off and I won't be on the internet, but I'll post like my clips of their stuff. I'll still record my episodes and things like that, all that kind of stuff. But I won't get on social media sometimes. And it's just because I need a break. Like, that a lot of that mental stress and everything else you deal with on a daily basis and all the other things that you're dealing with, all of your business problems funneling in. It's hard sometimes. And, taking a break is great.
Right, and it's much needed. It really is because people don't realize how much stress they cause themselves by not taking breaks or by not, taking time to care for themselves.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree
And
100%.
that's where we go wrong because without taking care of yourself, you don't give your mind and your body time to recover from everyday life and everyday stress.
No, I agree 100% with you. I think it's all great points too, and and I think that it's crazy that people are like get become people pleasers and things like that. And it's all new things I've never, stuff that you didn't know existed until now for a lot of people. And it's like once you hear people making strides such as you're doing, and other people that are getting sober of other things, it's great, man. Just you got to celebrate these, even if it's 6 months. Who cares? It's 6 months. You're doing more than you did the last 6 months, and you'll just keep making more strides and keep building up. So I'm looking forward to hearing more and hear more of these achievements coming through for sure. I'm here excited to hear about the book. Do you have any idea when the book is going to be ready? Or are we still it's still up in the air right now?
So right now, I'm still working on the cookbook first, just because that's just going to be a little quick 2020 recipe book. So I'm going to work on that one first and get that completely done and published first. That should be done. It was supposed to be done by the beginning of May. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to push it back. My
Hmm.
daughter's graduating this next month in the next 30 days, so I'm having to put everything on hold. So my cookbook will be ready by the end of May. And then the book about where I'm writing my life story, that is going to take me probably another year, to be honest. That's going to take me about another year, year and a half, because that is going to be a long process.
Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, I bet there's a lot to be told, and the details in it alone. And definitely definitely keep me posted on the book, because I'd love to invite you to come back when you get ready to publish it, and we'll talk about it. We can promote it and everything else like that. I'd love to come have you on and have you talk about it. And I'll probably have you do probably suggest you a few other people as well to come on and share your book on there as well with them too, because I think that I want to get it out there as much as I can, and I'm going to use the power and the network of friends I've have that other podcasts and stuff too, that we're going to get you on as many shows as we can, because I want people to know about your book and the story you went through and everything like that, because I think your story is really powerful. I think people need to hear that no matter what it was you went through and everything else you had, you made it through it. And if you can make it through it, why can't they? Because they always say, hey, you don't have it as bad as everybody else. Well, shit, nobody had it as close to you had it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to be hard to match, but somebody's going to feel your story and be like, damn, if Jenna can do it, why can't I? And you're going to inspire all these younger ladies and things like that. And people that are going to read this book I just have a feeling it's going to be great. I just have a great feeling about it. I'm so excited. I can't wait, but you definitely let me know the minute when you're getting ready to drop the book, because I will have you back on here for sure so we can talk about it.
Perfect. I look forward to that.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. I am so excited. I can't wait. I love it too, and things like that. I look forward to reading it too, because I feel like there's a lot more to this story you're not telling me, and I feel like it's going to be very interesting. Needless to say.
Oh yeah, I definitely have a long story. I've used my story before once. There's a counseling center out here that I'll let them use my story every now and then. I'll do documentaries for them for
That's awesome.
fundraising projects. And one year they was able to raise 150,000 just from
See,
showing my story.
look, Jen, look, 150,000 just for sharing your story. How about that? See, that has to make you feel really good about that, coming out here and talking about it. And it's got to get easier as you talk about it more, because I'm the same way. I don't tell everybody my whole story. I know a lot of people ask me, who is Pete? And I'm like, Pete likes to be the international man of mystery right now. But eventually I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm thinking about writing a book, or I'm going to record my own episode where I go into the great nitty gritty details of things. I feel like a lot of people are going to really be shocked when they find a lot of details that I haven't told them, because I feel like it's one of those things that I'm not really ready to share just yet, but I'll get there eventually, because
Mhm.
it's a lot that goes on, man. Like, we had an episode on narcissism
Mhm.
with me and my other guests. We were talking about it, and I've had a few people tell me they couldn't make it through the whole episode because it was that intense, just the things we were talking about the whole time. I can only imagine what that book's going to do to people. Some people are going to be like, wow, and that's all they're going to have to say. They can't say anything else. They're just going to put WOW in capitalized words and nothing else to say, because you're like, yeah, I know, huh? That's a lot I haven't told you.
Right. Because I know even my timeline alone, when my counselor was reading my timeline, she was like, oh my God, you could write a book about the first 8 years of your life.
Right. And you never know. There you go. First 8 years, and then there you go. Get yourself a book series going, and you know, listen, I look forward to it. I'm excited for Jenna. I think you're gonna do great things. I really do. I feel like the story alone is going to change somebody's life, and I love it. I love the fact that you're going to be brave enough to write this down for somebody to see, because once it's out there, it's out there, and
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, go ahead. You guys damn right. Go, you roar. Go, yeah, you're damn right. I'm going to own this thing, girl. Tell them.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, like I'm looking forward to it helping someone because I mean, it may help people, it may help multiple people, because I know
Yeah.
even like just being a survivor, a sexual abuse survivor, that
Hmm.
alone, my story alone, by the time I was 9 years old, I was a sexual assault victim. So it's like,
Yeah.
just going through that as a child and being able to talk about it. There's so many other children that went through something similar. So I really look forward to sharing my story and hoping that it helps someone.
Listen, Jenna, I'm going to tell you right now, I know it's going to help somebody. Honestly, and the great thing with this show is that it's heard all over the world. We're heard as far as Australia. Somebody's going to hear it, and somebody's going to be ready to read that book. And when the book comes out, like I said, I just have this feeling like it's going to be something great. Like it's going to be something powerful. And a lot of people are going to see this, and then maybe they're going to come forward and want to tell their story as well. And that's the great thing about it is that you're going to inspire change in somebody, or going to inspire somebody to want to come tell their story. And guys, if you want to come on this show and you want to talk about it, just reach out. Uh, just like Jenna did. Jenna, I put a Facebook post out. She reached out. I reached back, and I'm so glad I got her on here because, goddamn, this was an interesting conversation. Needless to say.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, don't definitely. I appreciate you being here, Jenna. As we get ready to start wrapping up, do you want to go ahead and plug any social sites or anybody can come visit you? Or do you have like you got your Instagram? Or you're talking about the book yet, or is it kind of this a little under wraps right now? Or where they can follow you to see the timeline for the cookbook? Because I'm excited about that too. I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be a real fun thing to pick up as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm excited about the cookbook for sure too. So my name on Facebook, I have two Facebook pages that I'm pushing. One of them is Jenna Sipe, my name on here. That's my page that I use to promote people and do live streams where I interview people. And then I have Just Jenna
Hey,
230. And Just Jenna 230 is my food blogging page where I do food reviews at any local restaurant or just any restaurant that I go to all over.
heck yeah, that's what's up. I like that. I'm definitely gonna check out the food review. I'm a big food guy. And I love watching those videos because you always see these people reviewing places, and it's like, man, now I want to go check these out too. And you
Mhm.
don't know, we can find the next little spot that we like, and things like that. Well, guys, I want to wrap up this episode of Pete versus Anxiety. Jenna, thank you so much for coming. Um,
Thank you.
like I said, let me know about the book. Keep me on timeline of it. Let me know any mile markers you make. I want to know because I'll make sure to announce them live here on the show. I think it's amazing what you're doing. I think where you're going is amazing. I think you're going to do amazing things. I just so excited you came. I
Thank
am
you.
so excited. I had a good feeling about this. I had a good reason. I'm like, man, I just want to do this. I don't know why, but it just, the universe was telling me, hey, man, you need to get her on here because you got to share this story. And needless to say is that I look forward to the book. Obviously, I'm going to ask for a signed copy because I like having items for my guests. Eventually, the plan is I'm going to get a studio set up where I'm going to have those on display for people to see that I've had all these great authors that have been on my show and things like that. Because I love to boast about all the guests I have. So Jenna, I do appreciate you coming and sharing your story. There's a lot more to be told, guys. As you heard, she's just giving us little tidbits of it. Trust me, that book is going to be something else to read.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Well, guys, I'm Pete versus Anxiety on X all the way down to TikTok. You guys can find me on Spotify all the way down to iHeartRadio, guys. And as I always say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you could do could save somebody's life, or hell, you can even make their day. I'm Pete versus Anxiety signing out saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?